We've got another huge slate of games coming up this week in college football. Can Fernando Mendoza be the top quarterback in this class? Who are the best defensive backs available for the 2026 NFL Draft? All that and more coming up next on the Draft Countdown Show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the Draft Countdown Show. I am always your host, Brian Bosarge, and I'm here to tell you that we are 210 days away from the 2026 NFL Draft. I'm also here to tell you if you want to discuss this show, discuss anything with football related, anything basketball, baseball, sports, movies, whatever. We chat about it all on the Draft Countdown Discord. And if you want to sign up for that Discord and get in on all those discussions, there's a link down below here in the video here, as well as you can go to draftcountdown.com. Top right corner of the search bar, there is a link to click there. Draftcountdown.com, the place to be for that. Lots of news to get to this week, and we're going to jump right in there with it. I thought I would lead with the other news from the state of Oklahoma this week, but somehow something more important come up here, and we're going to have to talk about Oklahoma quarterback John Mateer. It was announced the other day that he suffered a thumb injury late in the Auburn game, finished the game before now it was decided that surgery would be best for him to have a speedier recovery. But it's expected he's going to miss at least 3 games. Obviously, the initial thing is he was a Heisman Trophy the early leader for the Heisman Trophy this year. This will obviously derail that campaign. At best, it's expected he's going to miss 3 weeks. They have a bye this week. They play Kent State and then, of course, the Red River game with Texas in 2 weeks. If the surgery extends or if the recovery extends beyond the 3 weeks, then that also takes him out of games against South Carolina and Ole Miss as well. Mateer was moving up draft board, the quarterback rankings on that board. So be interesting to see how it shakes out when that's all said and done. But best of luck in the recovery there to Mr. Mateer. He's very fun to watch, if not aggravating to watch as from a draft evaluation point of view. The other news from the state of Oklahoma comes to Stillwater. From Stillwater, and Oklahoma State has parted ways with their longtime head coach, Mike Gundy. Final straw for Gundy seemed to be that embarrassing home loss they had Friday night to in-state Tulsa. Gundy's Oklahoma State program fell off a cliff the last 2 years. They played for the Big 12 title game in 2023, then went 0-9 in conference play last year, and somehow they've been playing even worse to start the 2025 season. Gundy, probably one of the best players in Oklahoma State football history, best quarterback, I should say, in Oklahoma State football history, and easily their best head coach long term. in program history, but not unlike Dabo, he has not been quick to embrace the new ways of college football, and the program is getting left behind. And that the roster they've got out there this year pales in comparison to the one they've had in years past. And it showed, like I said, Friday night, getting just beat up physically by Tulsa. Not a good look. I've got a strong feeling that one of those Texas group of 5 head coaches is going to get the call here when the season's over. Someone like UTSA's Jeff Traylor, North Texas head coach Eric Morris, or Texas State head coach G.J. Kinney, who also played collegiately at Tulsa. So those are, I'm sure there's other names, but those are the 3 that I would expect, because Oklahoma State, they have to recruit in Texas, and you want to get one of those guys that are very adept at getting those kids out of the state of Texas. Over to the NFL, couple of news items to get to here. The Giants, they pulled the plug on the Russell Wilson experience this week after starting 0-3. They'll be turning to first-round pick Jackson Dart. He'll be starting this week against the Chargers, and he's got a tough bit to go here for the Giants, but they couldn't put Russell Wilson out there anymore. I get it. Trade alert to talk about here. This time with no Mickey Loomis shenanigans involved. The Titans are trading second-year cornerback Jarvis Brownlee to the Jets. Tennessee gets a 2026 sixth-round pick in exchange for Brownlee and a 2026 seventh. Brownlee was a fifth-round pick out of Louisville last year, pick 146. I had a fourth-round grade on him, 115 overall in that class, but he had earned starting reps for the Titans. So the Jets get a cheap starting caliber cornerback here while the Titans just move on, I guess. That place doesn't seem in a good spot right now as Brian Callahan's relinquished play calling duties this week. Looks like the Titans in a bad spot, might be heading to that top pick in the draft again in 2026. All right, let's look at some 2026 NFL Draft DB rankings. This will be our final one of these segments until I'm assuming the offseason or draft season, if you will. Once we clear college football season and get into that all-star circuit, we'll start looking at these more as we get towards the 2026 NFL Draft. But we're going to start with cornerback, and I'm not safety is going to be worse than this, but corner, DBs are always my biggest struggle in evaluation. So we're going to take all of this with a grain of salt right now, and especially when like I said, we're very early in the process, and timing, speed, agility, all those metrics that we get from pro days and combine are they're more important to me for DBs than they are a lot of other positions, because if you can't run, you're screwed. Like if you're not fast, you're screwed, especially at the corner position. Speed is paramount to being able to play in the NFL. But right now, my top-rated cornerback is a guy who hasn't played a whole lot this season, coming off an ACL injury. But Jermon McCoy from Tennessee was so good last year, and I think if he can regain that form, he's going to be a top guy again in this cornerback class. Number 2 for me right now is Avion Terrell from Clemson, another good man-to-man corner, decent speed, and we'll see how he continues to go. He's been a little banged up this year as well. Mansour Delane has come up my board a little bit from LSU, the Virginia Tech transfer, has been one of the best corners on the field this season that I've seen. Number 4 for me right now, Malik Muhammad from Texas. And number 5 for me is what I think is the top nickel in this class, at least right now, and that's Jalen Kilgore from South Carolina. Other corners to watch as we go forward, we mentioned Will Lee III from Texas A&M in our previews, as well as DJ McKinney from Colorado. We've talked about them already. A.J. Harris from Penn State. He's going to get a workout this week. We'll see him as well. Same, we can say that for Chikario Davis from Washington, the Southern Cal transfer. The Arizona transfer. He'll be getting a workout this week as well. And Damani Jackson from Alabama, another corner to watch. The safety position, I listed one name. That's Caleb Downs, Ohio State. He is by far the best DB in this class. He is by far the top safety in this class. And right now he's the number 1 player in this class. Does that mean he'll be the number 1 overall pick? Obviously not. Safeties don't go number 1. But Caleb Downs is, I feel like, a can't-miss prospect in this class, and he's 1 above all. So I didn't even rank 2 through 5 for the other safeties. But some other names to keep an eye on going forward: Dylan Thieneman from Oregon, Kamari Ramsey from Southern Cal, Zeke Berry from Michigan, and Keon Sabb from Alabama. Some other safeties to watch. All right, let's look back at week 4 of college football and what prospects stood out to us with their performances last weekend. And I got to tell you, it was a lot. It was hard to pare down one top offense and one top defensive guy from last week. But I'll take it back. The best offensive performance was pretty easy, and that's Fernando Mendoza, the quarterback from Indiana. And I mentioned it in the open. He's got a very real shot of, depending on who comes out and who doesn't and what happens the rest of the way. But Fernando Mendoza has a shot to climb up the board and maybe not be the first quarterback taken, but maybe the second, maybe the third. I would not be surprised at all, especially if he continues to play the way he's played the last few weeks. And against Illinois, with some NFL talent on that defense last week, Mendoza completed 92% of his passes, 21 of 23 for 267 yards and 5 touchdowns. They beat the shit out of the Illini, like 63-10 or something. It was incredible, the performance from the Hoosiers last weekend. The top defensive standout for me this week was Jacob Rodriguez, the linebacker from Texas Tech, all over the field, man. Just like he was just constantly in on the action, finished with 11 tackles, 5 solos. He forced a fumble, had an interception. Just a great all-around performance in that huge win for the Red Raiders on the road at Utah last week. 6 other guys stood out to me on offense with their performances, including a handful of quarterbacks. TCU quarterback Josh Hoover in our game against SMU, 22 of 40, 379. He had 5 touchdowns and 1 interception. And a lot of that damage came to wide receiver Eric McAllister, the Horned Frog wide receiver. 15 targets, caught 8 of them for 254 yards and 3 receiving touchdowns. Huge performance from McAllister. He didn't have anywhere near that production their first 2 games, and then just exploded against the Mustangs. Another quarterback that stood out this week is a guy I really liked at UNLV when he was there. Sat behind Miller Moss for most of last season with the Trojans, but that's Southern Cal's Jaden Maiava, 20 of 26 for 234 and 3 touchdowns against Michigan State. He also ran the ball 4 times for 31 and 2 more touchdowns, so 5 total touchdowns against the Spartans in that late game on Saturday. A couple of Indiana wide receivers that caught the balls from Mendoza against Illinois. Elijah Surratt, 9 for 92 and 2 touchdowns on 10 targets. Omar Cooper Jr. is having a hell of a season so far. The other wide receiver for Indiana, 6 for 78 and a touchdown in that game. And for NC State, running back Hollywood Smothers had a huge game the week before. Another big game against Duke in a losing effort this week. Smothers carried the ball 17 times for 123 and a touchdown, caught 5 balls for 41 yards. Defensively, some other standouts. TCU linebacker Caleb Alarm-Orr, 8 tackles, 6 solos, 2 tackles for loss, a sack, and 2 hurries. Tremendous game against SMU for Alarm-Orr. Utah edge rusher John Henry Daly, a guy we mentioned last week, came into the game against Texas Tech leading the nation in sacks with 5. He added another one and forced a fumble on that sack with 5 tackles against Texas Tech. And Indiana defensive tackle Tyreek Tucker had 4 tackles and 2 sacks in that huge win against the Illini. All right, folks, this one probably going to be a long segment, so buckle up. We're going to get into it. 6 games in a huge week 5 coming up in the SEC, especially Big Ten, huge games this week. But we're going to lead with the ACC, and it's a Friday night. Florida State, undefeated, blowing everybody out, at Virginia. This one is tricky, I think. I think it's a tricky game. Florida State's only a 7-point favorite Friday night. They have had some issues historically. Now, I know everything changes year by year in college football. But historically, Florida State has had some issues on these Thursday and Friday night games, including their first ACC loss after not losing a game in conference for like 3 years. Their first ACC loss was a Thursday night game against Virginia. But Florida State is, like I said, they've blown out everybody, including Alabama. But Virginia seems to have a competent offense for the first time in the Tony Elliott era, and it's led by 60-year quarterback Chandler Morris. We're also going to be keeping an eye on Virginia offensive tackle Mikhail Boley. He's the son of longtime NFL linebacker Michael, and he's got his hands full. He plays the left side, and he'll be going against a very stout Florida State pass rush this week. 11 a.m. on Saturday on TNT. Cincinnati at Kansas, game in the Big 12. Way back in week 0, we got to look at Kansas. Now we get to see the Bearcats for the first time. And my focus is going to be on Cincinnati linebacker Jake Golday, who comes into the game with 28 tackles and 2 sacks. He's a rangy backer. He's a great athlete. Their tight end Joe Royer averaging nearly 18 yards per catch this season with 2 touchdowns. For Kansas, Alabama transfer wide receiver Emmanuel Henderson has excelled this year for the Jayhawks. Leads the team in receptions and receiving yards, and he's also got a kick return touchdown while averaging 35.7 yards on 6 kick returns. So that could be a fun one in the Big 12. Early morning on Saturday. 2:30 p.m. on ABC. Auburn is at Texas A&M. Auburn gave up 10 sacks last week against Oklahoma. Now they got to face an Aggies defense that can get after the passer with Cassius Howe and Scooby Williams, amongst others. Also another chance to get a look at Auburn edge rusher Keldrick Falk. And he forms a nice pair with 4th-year player Kieran Crawford coming off the edge for the Tigers. Their offensive line's got to play better this week than it did against Oklahoma for sure. 2:30 p.m. on CBS. Ohio State goes across to the Pacific Northwest at Washington. And I think this one might get tricky for the Buckeyes. Washington's been dominant thus far this season. Granted, it's against 3 doormats, but dominant nonetheless. Their running back, Jonah Coleman, has been absolutely ridiculous in those 3 games. 59 offensive touches for 497 yards, 10 touchdowns. Top prospect for the Huskies, though, I believe, is Denzel Boston. Their wide receiver, showing an ability to separate while also having a huge catch radius, makes great plays in the red zone. 16 catches thus far this season for 249 yards and 3 touchdowns. They will face an Ohio State defense. We mentioned Caleb Downs, 1 of 1 in the safety class. But also their linebackers, Sonny Styles, Arvell Reese. They're fun players, going to be NFL starters potentially down the road. This is going to be a fun one, and I think Ohio State better watch it. All I'm saying. I think Washington primed on this one. 6:30 p.m. on ABC, Alabama at Georgia. And don't look now, but Alabama's playing good ball again. And that includes Ty Simpson at quarterback. Had a good last few games. But this isn't ULM. This isn't Wisconsin. Georgia, loaded as always on defense, led by C.J. Allen, the linebacker. If I had to guess off the top of my head, there's going to be at least 15 players from this game drafted come April. And this is always a game that every NFL scout, every NFL evaluator, every person like me who covers the NFL draft will be tuned into this game because you're going to see NFL talent at every position on the field Saturday night. But get those batteries ready in the remote control because also at 6:30 on Saturday night on NBC, Oregon at Penn State. And Penn State has played a complete dog shit schedule to this point of the season. And here comes the Ducks. Quarterback Dante Moore, a fantastic start to this season. And he's another quarterback that's sneaking up that board as more people get to watch him, more people talking about him. And with the other quarterbacks not doing as much. But he's 71 of 95 to start the season for 962 yards, 11 touchdowns to 1 interception. He's got 4 weapons to dish it out to. Wide receivers Gary Bryant, Malik Benson, tight end Kenyon Sadiq, and that doesn't include true freshman DeCorian Moore, who might be the best of them all, but obviously 2 more years before he's even draft eligible. You get some great potential scouting matchups in this one with Dennis Sutton against Oregon offensive tackle Isaiah World. Oregon interior offensive lineman Iapani Laululu against Penn State defensive tackle Zane Durant. You got Ducks edge Mateo Uyangole against Penn State offensive tackle Drew Shelton. And all this doesn't even mention Nittany Lions quarterback Drew Aller, who's a complete enigma in this quarterback class. One that seemingly has all the tools, athleticism, arm strength, and then does dumb shit at the most inopportune times. And you don't know. So like I said, get them batteries ready, man, because Saturday night is going to be a fun one with Penn State, Oregon, and Bama and Georgia. I'll be watching live at least South Carolina, Kentucky, but them's the breaks, right? All right. It's our question and answer segment. As we do every week, we got a couple of good questions to get to. But if always, as we've said every week now, if you want to get your question answered during this segment, you have to be a member of the Draft Countdown Discord. This is an exclusive for our members of the Discord. Again, link to join down below in the video description section here. I don't know what the official term for that is. And draftcountdown.com, top right of the search bar is the link to join. Join there, sign up, go to the podcast portion of the Discord, ask a question there. I will answer it in this section. But as always, our constant question asker in there is our good friend Bubba, and he asks, what do you make of Arkansas quarterback Taylen Green from a draft perspective? Is he a legit early rounder, or is he Joe Milton 2.0? And he also says that their running back, Mike Washington, has been impressive, especially at 223 pounds. So my answer with Green is a bit nuanced, but here we go. He's got great size, great athleticism, been having a great year until he, pissed himself against Memphis last weekend, and they blew that game. But Green, currently my number 11 quarterback in this class. So if everyone comes out, that would put him day 3, probably, which I think if he enters this draft, which I don't know how eligibility works anymore, but if he is in this draft class, he's probably a developmental day 3 quarterback anyway. So that tracks for me. This offensive scheme they're in with Bobby Petrino, works for his strengths and for a pro evaluation, to be honest. If he cleans up his issues, he has forcing the ball, accuracy at times. Maybe he moves up more. It also depends on who goes back to school, like I said, amongst those ahead of him in the pecking order. As far as him being Joe Milton 2.0 goes, if Taylen Green does get a Senior Bowl invite and I see him skipping balls to wide receivers in practice, I'll take that comp under advisement. But until then, no. I do hope Senior Bowl would do wonders, I think, for a guy like Taylen Green if he is one of the ones that gets an invite to that game. Again, we'll have to see how that whole pecking order shakes out after the declaration in mid-January. As far as Mike Washington goes, was not on my radar before this season. And there's reasons for that. But he's been very explosive so far in 2025, and that's put him squarely in our focus a little bit. He's currently averaging 8.1 yards per offensive touch with 5 touchdowns. He's been around the block a little bit, spent 3 years at Buffalo, then spent a year at New Mexico State, which is why, not really on our radar before he gets to Arkansas. Not a whole lot of watching them schools last year. But he's been far more successful in Fayetteville than he has at his previous stops. Just in 4 games this year, right? He's had more success than he had at Buffalo or New Mexico State, which makes me question a little bit why it took him so long to break out. That's a question with him that I think is going to need to be answered. Dynasty Eeyore asks, what should I do on Saturday since there isn't a Miami game to watch? Did you not hear me talk about those other 6 games earlier? Come on, man. It's going to be a great day of college football, and you get it stress-free. Your team's off. And by the way, that didn't even include LSU and Ole Miss. And that whole Lane Kiffin's daughter, Landry Kiffin, dating Whit Weeks, the linebacker from LSU subplot that's going on. It's just fun stuff, man. Enjoy it. Enjoy that stress-free day off of Saturday with no team to worry about winning or losing and living and dying by what happens with that. Enjoy that, Eeyore there. Final thoughts this week. We've been a little heavy with it the last couple weeks, so heck, we're going to keep it light tonight. Both my favorite teams are in the shitter. The Bengals because Joe Burrow's out probably for the year. South Carolina because they can't block anybody, and now they're 1 loss away from being mathematically eliminated from the college football playoff. But that doesn't mean I'm not going to be sitting back and enjoying those huge games this weekend. I'm going to watch them all at some point. If I don't watch them live, I'll definitely watch them on a replay because the Bengals play Monday night. So I have all day Sunday to get caught up on those other big games this week. So for everyone else whose teams suck and you want to enjoy good football, this is going to be a weekend for you. So here's to you, and let's all enjoy those games. That's going to do it for this week's edition of the Draft Countdown Show. A reminder, like our videos, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I guess hit the notification bell so you can get notified when a new video drops. We don't really do lives anymore. Maybe we will at some point down the road, but that's not really a thing that we're doing right now. But share them out. Tell everybody. This is a great place to hear about college football and NFL discussions. And then just, like I said, enjoy life. But for everybody here at Draft Countdown, see you next time.